on me.
Okay, so the next film was the film I was really looking forward to seeing more than any. It was Escape from Tomorrow. And the only thing I had heard about this was that it had premiered at Sundance a few months ago. And this film was directed and written by a man named Randy Moore. It's his debut film. And the hook of it is that it was filmed surreptitiously at Disney World in Orlando. And so I kind of went in expecting sort of a hit-and-run amateur hour kind of movie with a lot of handheld camera and so forth. I was really blown away by this film. It's essentially about this guy who takes his family to Disney World on the last day. The last morning he finds out that he lost his job. He got fired. And then the movie it really kind of reminded me of was Orson Welles' adaptation of The Trial, the Kafka film that he made in the 60s, because it's all about him, this guy and his family. He keeps this from his family because he wants them to enjoy their last day at Disney World. And the day gets increasingly surreal from his point of view. And the movie is all about kind of the lie of perpetual happiness and sort of the creepy underbelly that, from the film's point of view, this place has. And and it's very kind of it was sort of like that South Park episode that made brutal fun of Mickey Mouse and sort of showed kind of the whole kinky, weird underbelly of it. It sort of takes that and blows it up into a full length film. This was my favorite film of the festival. I have the feeling it's going to be very divisive, very polarizing. I think some people in the audience were just exploding with laughter, and other people were kind of recoiling from it, I think, a little bit, because the movie does not pull any punches at all. It's just it's kind of jauntily sinister. It's very, because it keeps playing the really sort of upbeat 1950s era Disney music throughout. It even does sort of it has tongue-in-cheek credits in the same Disney font. I don't know, honestly, how they're going to release this thing.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've just heard that they're just really, if you want to see it, you're going to have to, see it kind of like you did, or I don't know, like Cassette Underground or something.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems like it. I want to say there was a few guys. The last time I was at the cinema, a few people in the lobby were talking about it.
Were they?
Yeah. And looking forward to seeing it, but they didn't know how.
Yeah.
So and the way you're describing it makes me really wonder more so now, because I wasn't sure of really the content of it, but everyone was saying sort of like, oh yeah, this guy, they filmed a movie at, Disney. Is it Disney World?
Disney World.
Okay.
Disney World. Yeah.
And got away with it, I guess, to a certain extent. I mean, they got away with it until they tried to release it.
Well, the very last panel we were at was the one about, it was about video essays, but it kind of turned into what can you legally put on YouTube, how much of a film. And they were talking about Room 237 and how that used essentially the entirety of The Shining and many other films and did not really have permission from Warner Brothers to do it. Something Matt Zeller Seitz said really struck me. He was like, if Warner Brothers sued them, they would lose, and then we would have this precedent that you can use whatever part of the movie you want in your movie. I wonder if this is maybe along those same lines, but I don't know.
I don't know. Disney is famous for being pretty litigious and protective, and this does fall, you could make an argument, fall under the satire argument, because it clearly is. But it's not a flattering portrait. I mean, I remember the actor who's really wonderful, I forget his name, but he was talking about how the director wasn't trying to punk Disney. Well, yes and no, but it's what it says about the place, or just sort of about it kind of takes that place in sort of a larger perspective of our culture and how everybody's seeking happiness all the time, and it kind of questions whether this is really a good normal thing. The other thing I really loved about the film, talking about the camera work, I don't know how they shot it. And the director said he went from weighing 215 pounds to 168 from the time it began to the time it ended.
He was on one of the panels, and he said they just had a DSLR, which literally everyone in the park had. So nobody noticed that they didn't have like a big rig. They just had the digital DSLR that everyone else was carrying around, so it didn't matter.
He went through a lot of trouble to make the movie visually distinctive. There's a lot of classical tripod setups. There's this wonderful sequence with fireworks at night that some of the images I just are so startling. I can't get them out of my head. It was just really, and kind of a weird sense of humor. Not sort of like a David Lynch ripoff kind of way, but it was just it just felt very kind of fresh to me. So I'm looking forward, hopefully, to seeing it again.
Yeah.
Really good.
A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.